Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
The last 24 hours have been pretty wild. What is going on? Did the Stellaris community just explode? Across Reddit, Discord, and YouTube, even the Paradox forums, a lot has happened. We've had a lot of confusion, some misinformation, and a reasonable amount of anger. Yesterday, I released a video that used a combination of title and thumbnail that was intentionally clickbait. Getting people to click on my videos is my job. I did this in a genuine attempt to spread some important news. However, I initially got the tone of the title and thumbnail wrong in this case, and this created a lot of confusion. For that, I am sorry. Misinformation was never my intent, and after a few iterations of thumbnails and titles, I have now settled on a combination which I believe is appropriate. Before we go any further, let's first bring everyone up to speed on what's happened over the last 24 hours. Yesterday, I reported on the news that Paradox will be cutting their investment into Stellaris. No one is saying Stellaris is ending today, and honestly, that's not what I am concerned about. Last week, Paradox announced, very quietly in a Swedish finance industry publication, which I've linked in the description, that they were shutting 2 internal development studios. One of these 2 studios, Paradox Arctic, has been heavily involved in the recent development of Stellaris. This studio contained 24 people, and at least, if not more than, a quarter of the team working on Stellaris. Paradox will not be opening new roles for those affected by this closure. They aim to match the currently open positions with skills from these 2 studios. None of these officially listed positions are specifically for Stellaris. This means that the Stellaris team will be reduced by up to a quarter in the short term, and this announcement indicates that Paradox are, in effect, cutting investment into future Stellaris development, which may mean an end to the current golden age we have all been enjoying. Now, it's safe to say my video yesterday caused an explosive reaction from our community. Within hours, there were multiple dedicated Reddit threads, part of my videos were being misquoted, people that hadn't actually watched the video were joining this conversation, and a whole lot of misunderstanding occurred, derailing the actual debate we should be having. The press release has stated that Paradox intend to centralize in Stockholm, yet they have closed internal studios in other cities whilst not opening new positions for these people. Centralize while not opening new positions for their current staff at other studios. Paradox has just had one of their most profitable years on record, and I imagine that a lot of people are quite surprised at the timing of this. This should be the ideal time to expand operations for them, but they are suddenly downsizing and consolidating. This is quite disconcerting. Many Stellaris team members, including the game director himself, took time out of their Sunday to join this evolving conversation. Their comments mainly revolved around the many misunderstandings caused by my original video. Comments that, when combined with this video, hopefully can mean we can focus on the conversation that matters, the impact on the development of Stellaris, and the people who will lose their jobs. So far, the developers have not addressed or refuted any of the news or the concerning speculations. We all agree that Stellaris is not going anywhere today, nor is the custodian team today, and that a majority of the Stellaris team are based in Stockholm. But what do these concerning new decisions mean? They mean that in the short to medium term, there will be less people working on the game, which will have an impact on either the frequency of releases or the workload of the remaining diminished team. There are many things that Paradox could have easily said about not firing anyone or maintaining their current investment in development, but they have been silent. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. People will lose their jobs. They have instead said that these costs, such as severance pay, will only happen to a small portion of their workforce. This is a big red flag. This silence is likely due to the union negotiations that we are told are ongoing, and I assume that this is the reason that when I reached out to the community team, they declined to comment on this situation. In fact, I'd like to point out that it is likely that the Stellaris team is unable to answer any of our questions, so please, do not take any of this as a call to start hounding anyone at Paradox. Now, unlike the other verifiable information I have presented previously, this next section is based on online comments that I cannot verify, but I think offer some insightful perspective into this situation if they are correct. Max Hayden Chiz comments that if Paradox had the ultimate goal of concentrating development in Stockholm, they could do this very slowly over a number of years by doing things like offering incentives to move, not hiring replacements for vacant positions at the other locations, etc. That they aren't taking it slowly and are instead doing something drastic indicates a sense of urgency that the situation does not seem to warrant. This raises red flags for analysts because, if the urgency was for a good reason, Paradox would be publicly bragging about it and talking it up to investors and the press. Burying something like this in an industry publication is inherently suspicious, even if it's something as silly as our leases ran out, negotiations to renew them failed, and we couldn't find a new location in these cities. Whoops! Max finishes by pointing out that this all begs the question, what other failures of oversight and planning are going on that we don't know about? Xoronite Wisp has said that he knows many in the Paradox Arctic team and has a pretty good insight into the studio. He says that the news of this closure came as a surprise to the entire Paradox Arctic team as well. If this is true, that suggests there is a lack of transparency and there is uncertainty within the company. This must be concerning for those developers that are unaffected. Moving on from unverified information and back to hard facts. How can reducing the size of the Stellaris team not be a bad thing for the game? We should not be sweeping this issue under the rug. We must not forget that there are also real people being affected by these changes. No one should be brushing off the fact that people may be losing their jobs, and in this time of economic uncertainty, doing that is, in my opinion, wholly unacceptable. 36 people will be losing their current positions, and there are only 11 positions open. Swedish law means that only public sector employers are, subject to law, required to advertise available positions. This may mean that there are more positions available than are being advertised, and the ramifications of the closures may not be as drastic as feared. If there are positions available that have not been externally advertised yet, I would urge the corporate management of Paradox to make them public immediately and put the fears of the community at rest. Some of the talent in these studios is nearly irreplaceable. This is the crux of the issue, because 36 is bigger than 11. My concerns are focused mainly on the game Stellaris and the employees directly affected by this decision. I am concerned that this large reduction in developers will have a negative impact on this game in the short to medium term. And my heart goes out to all of those that will lose their livelihoods in the name of a new corporate strategy that claims to improve efficiency and productivity. This whole situation is shit.